The term for someone who can speak multiple languages is a polyglot. Have you heard of that word? Maybe?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've heard it come up before.
Yeah. Well, I had never heard of it prior to the research I did. And there was this one guy in particular, and I mentioned how impressive it is when someone could speak, 3 or 4 languages. This one guy's name is Ziad Fazah, Liberian-born Lebanese polyglot, and he currently holds the Guinness Book of World Records for speaking the most languages. Take a guess. How many languages do you think he can speak, read and speak with a level of proficiency? Not fluency, but proficiency.
Proficiency. So I think it's...
Take a guess. Guinness Book of World Record.
I'm going to go with somewhere in the 30s.
That's what I would think, like 30, 35. This guy, Ziad Fazah, can speak 58 languages proficiently, including Arabic, Polish, Thai, Urdu, and Norwegian. So we're not just talking English and the Romance languages. Arabic, Polish, Thai, Urdu, and Norwegian. I mean... Just think about, and by the way, I just want to clarify the levels of fluency. So proficient, my understanding is proficient, you can hold a conversation, you can understand text, you can, generate, you can speak, but you can't listen to a 60-minute podcast and understand every word. Right. That's fluency or having the native understanding. But still, 58 languages. I mean, how do you think he was able to, to pick up all those? That's pretty remarkable.
No, it definitely is remarkable. I think, there's a lot of overlap in languages. So actually, the number of 58 doesn't shock me. I think, this is, if you talk to people who are polyglots, once they learn one Romance language, like once you learn French, Spanish is easy, and then, you could learn Catalan, and then you can learn Italian. So I think there's different groupings that you can learn that really make it easier to achieve that amount. But again, you were saying, the difference between Urdu and, English, there's really not that much relation. So he probably, the number one thing I think he did is probably just sought out other people to communicate with.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And to my listeners out there, I want to ask you a survey question. How many languages, and don't butt in because you probably researched this, how many languages do you think are spoken in the world today? Just take a moment if you're listening and just think of a number in your head. Any number, how many languages do you think are spoken in the world today? Ian, how many languages are spoken in the world today?
I didn't look this up, but if I had to guess, I would say somewhere in the 2,000 range.
2,000 would be mind-blowing. 6,500 languages spoken in the world today. And some of those, actually, what's funny, 2,000 of those have fewer than 1,000 speakers. So let's say I got 1,000 of my friends and we made up a language. And 1,000 people speak it, that can be on there. But just the fact that there's 6,500 languages, you think, say for instance you're not very well educated, and you might just think, okay, like there's English, there's Spanish, there's Chinese, there's like 10 languages, right? Like 6,500? Probably like 95% of these are either on the way out or becoming less and less utile. What do you take away from that?
Yeah, no, I think if you look in 100 years, I'd be curious to see how many languages there are. I think it's going to be greatly reduced. If not by technology, just by homogenization in nations. You really have to learn, the whatever language is spoken there. Like for German, for example, you go to Germany, you go to all different regions, they have different dialects that less and less people are speaking. Now it's standard High German that everybody has to learn in school. All of the media is consumed in that language. So I think if I had to guess, probably the majority of those languages probably either come from India or
Africa,
like
tribes.
Right.
Without verifying it, I'm pretty sure that a lot of them are tribal, especially with 1,000 like tribal languages in Africa, India as well. So statistically, the top 5 most spoken languages in the world. Mandarin Chinese, right. 1.2 billion. Spanish is 2. I think when we were kids, English was 2, no?
No, so this is native language, right?
These are the languages that are considered the most spoken languages in the world. There's no real clarification if it's I would assume it's native. So Mandarin Chinese
English would be higher on there if not, but okay.
Mandarin Chinese, and then Spanish, English, Hindi, and Arabic. Obviously, that's a great majority of Asia. Mandarin Chinese, Spanish, English, Hindi, and Arabic. And if you want to learn another language, what's the easiest language to learn, and what would be the most difficult?
If you're coming from English, I think any of the Romance languages, I would say Spanish. Give German a try. To me, and I'm gonna try to convince people to learn German right now. But I mean, for me, the sentence structure mirrors English so much more. I think initially from hearing it, when you hear it, it doesn't sound as much like English. But once you really get a grasp of how the grammar works, how certain words are formed, to me, that's a very similar language to English. But I've done some research on this as well. I think Dutch is actually the one. They're saying
the hardest or the easiest?
The easiest is
what?
an English native speaker. Yes, Dutch.
I was in the Netherlands and I tried to learn Dutch on Duolingo. I think I got like 5 expressions and that's it. I gave up.
Well, you got to keep with it. That's the issue. You got to get back on Duolingo and try. But I guess for Americans, I mean Spanish. I think Spanish, is the most prevalent in our day-to-day lives. Languages adopt other languages, and I think in American English we do adopt Spanish. So I would say if you wanted to try a language, if you wanted to achieve the easiest language for Americans, it's English or Spanish, right?
And the hardest one?
The hardest one, I can't even start to think about that. I think it would probably go to one of those African tribal languages.
Really?
I can't imagine. I think there's just such a difference in how that language is formed. You couldn't even wrap your head around it. I know people have issues with learning Chinese as well. Mandarin is difficult just because there's a completely different conception. It kind of relates back to that linguistic relativity.